sweet pound for pound. UFC thrills, stills nights get loud. Big EQB, that's how we get down.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the GRP. Back at it on a Sunday after UFC London. Ready to go. Yeah. Antoine, thank you. Appreciate that. I was just reading your chat. I'm good to go, man. It's another week, man. We went through this weekend way too fast, but we had a lot going on. What's up, 78 Northwest? Appreciate you for jumping in. It was my wife's birthday on Friday, so we had a good day of just celebrating, and we had dinner, got to go hang out with some friends, get some drinks, and yeah, just had some good quality time. So it was fun, and we had a good night. We didn't stay out too late, but we stayed out kind of late. We had a good time, and then yeah, we just kept it going on Saturday and went out and did some things during the day. So the weekend's just been super fast. Today was the somewhat relaxing day, but yeah, we just kind of stayed home and chilled. And yeah, Arizona is it's not cooling down yet because we hit 100 and it just kept going. So it was over 100 today, I think. At least right over 100. It hasn't gotten too crazy. I know Infinity's part of Arizona is definitely hotter, but yeah, we're experiencing those hundreds. So says supposedly we're gonna cool down by next weekend a little bit, but you know, once we hit 100, man, we know it's about time to settle in for all those hot days, because it's gonna happen. I am watching. If you see me looking up, it's because I have my TV on, because I am watching the U of A play right now, which is why I had to throw the hat on and make sure that I'm paying attention. A lot of times I don't like to watch if I can't pay full attention or something. I start watching, and if everything's going good, I'm like, man, maybe it's good if I don't keep watching. I don't know. I have weird superstitions. I don't usually care. I just let it go. But sometimes when I get involved, I start wondering what I should continue to do and not do. But I'm hoping that continuing to watch, sporting the team with the hat, and all of that means that they're going to pull out with the win. They're only up by 7 right now. They had a bigger lead a little while ago, but you know, that's basketball for you. It goes back and forth, and our team's looking good this year, so I'm hoping. They're called the Cardiac Cats for a reason, though, because they always make it difficult at the end, and it's always an interesting, close game. I think we had an easy one last time, so this time it's looking a little closer. So what's and yeah, I'm just hoping that they pull it off, especially because I'm actually watching and paying attention. But are there any places you can walk around, like strips or plaza? Yeah, I mean, for here in town, from us, it's a lot of just like downtown stuff. That's what we did on Friday. We went and had dinner somewhere near downtown that we like to go, one of our favorite places, and then we went downtown, and yeah, we went and hung out down there. So, I mean, that's kind of really like the place to go if you want to just bar hop. There's everywhere around downtown. Other than that, though, there's not too much exciting stuff happening over here. It's not a lot of big time areas that you can hang out at, but big enough, I guess. It just depends on what you want to do. So there's a little bit of things. We don't go out a ton anymore like we used to, but you know, we still make a good time of it. Do you want to see Volk versus Silva at UFC 329 for the belt? I think that would be more interesting than Evloev, but I mean, man, 10-0. I know that they're 10 decisions. I mean, I guess Evloev gave Murphy a little bit of a run for his money with the striking, so that shows some promise. I don't know that the iced tea. I don't know that Volk would let it go that way. I think Volk would put the pressure on a little more, but yeah, I think John Silva would be excited to see Volk fight, but I don't know that I don't think it's good for them to keep kind of sidestepping Evloev, especially after the streak he's been on. But we've seen worse. We've seen it happen with guys that have waited longer. So I guess I can't really say that just yet. I'm sure they could make him wait longer if they wanted to. So for me, yeah, I think Silva would be better for the title shot, but yeah, I don't know. You from Arizona? Did you grow up somewhere? No, I'm born and raised right here. I I've pretty much I barely even left. No, I visited some areas. I go to Vegas a lot and been to Mexico, been to Chicago, been to Texas once, been to California, of course. But that's about it. I haven't really been all over the place, but yeah, born and raised here. And yeah, I like it. I mean, of course, everybody gets tired of where they're from after a little while, and you go through those times where sometimes you just feel like you should leave. But no, I mean, I like it here. Chicago was a long ass time ago for me, but I enjoyed it while I was there. Unfortunately, we were there for my wife's family, lost a family member, but we still got to kind of explore a little bit. So we had a good time doing that. Wasn't too bad. Never been to Cali, huh? Damn. Like San Francisco. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we've been to Disneyland, been to San Diego. I've never been to San Francisco, but San Diego is really cool. And then, of course, LA is LA. So I've never really been through in and out of LA too much, but I've been there a couple times and it's been all right from what I've seen, but I haven't really seen a ton. So yeah, same with Texas. I just kind of went through. I stopped in and was out quickly. So, oh, in New Mexico, I travel there for work all the time. So there's not a whole lot going on in New Mexico that I know of. But it is what it is. Damn, this game's getting closer. Anyway, so we had UFC London, and that was I mean, we had PFL happening as well, which I forgot to even prep anything for that. There wasn't a whole lot going on for PFL, but I know that let me get to this real quick because I didn't even bring it up. But I think Castelo Van Steenis got the win to defend his belt against Fabian Edwards. It was a third round TKO. So he got the win and defends his title. AJ McKee gets a unanimous decision win over Adam Borix. And who else was fighting in this? Linton Vassell got a TKO as well in the second round over Jose Augusto. And I wanted to see if, Gino Van Steenis, Castelo's brother, got the win by TKO in the first round too. So, yeah, I mean, looks like there was a few more finishes in this one than there was in the UFC fights. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. But yeah, I didn't hear a whole lot going on with that one. But, you know, it wasn't like none of these were like blockbuster events really for the most part, at least that I feel. So you still had some PFL going on though. And they were in Madrid. Oh my gosh. Okay, good. I'm like, man, when we have the opportunity to score, we got to score. But yeah, I'm usually not trying to get too involved in watching the games, especially when I'm on here. But I was just like, I started watching this game from the beginning and I'm like, damn, I kind of want to keep watching it. So I will keep looking up. I think there's 5:55 left. That's okay. I'll just keep looking up and hoping that I see the good scores on the screen. But yeah, so that was your PFL. And then, of course, we had UFC London. I feel like the event overall, there was a lot of decisions, but I feel like there was some decent fights, even though they went to decision. So, we could talk about those. I don't feel like it was a complete, like, boring night of fights. It started off with a bang, that's for sure. The women, there were supposed to be two women's fights. There was supposed to be two women's fights right off the bat, but one of them got canceled because what's her name? Why am I just spacing her name? Luana Carolina came in like 8 pounds overweight, which was crazy. And yeah, it was kind of crazy. I was like, damn, 8 pounds overweight is nuts. Yeah, have 2 future NBA players on your roster. Bryden Berries, Cole Pete. Oh yeah, Pete's badass too. Yeah, I mean our team's looking good this year. It's just, fuck. We've been known to blow it, and I just don't want to see them do that. So it's like you either get out early or you make it to the end. But it's like when you get out like 1 round before the final, it sucks too. So I guess it sucks no matter what when you lose. I'm just happy to see them doing well this year, and we'll see if they can keep it going and pull this one out. That'd be good. Yeah, so the women's fight started off good. We had a pretty exciting first fight with Chanel Dyer and Ravina Oliveira. So we'll get to that in a minute, of course. But other than that, man, I'm excited for next week's fights with Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer. I feel like that's going to be a good fight. There's a possibility, just with the way Adesanya has been fighting, I'm a little bit worried about Joe Pyfer's power because, we saw Adesanya, get TKO'd, and it looked like anytime something got landed flush on him, it wobbled him at least, if not dropped him. So I'm a little worried about that with Pyfer, because if Pyfer gets off one of those crazy big shots that we know he can throw and land, that kind of worries me a little bit. There's so much to get into tonight, just with the stuff on social media and Dana's words from the presser last night. Yeah, I mean, I saw some stuff. I didn't see a whole lot of it going on, but it was kind of interesting, some of the things that he was talking about. So if you got something specific you wanted to talk about, for sure, bring that up, because I didn't pull a whole bunch of stuff to go over with that one. I know he was talking about Conor, talking about Ian Gary, and saying that someone, you see this stuff on social media sometimes, and you kind of wonder why people put things, like, you could see how they put stuff together and decide to talk, like put a post out there about it, which was kind of, I don't know, kind of dumb, that they would put 2 things together. Like, why would you think that Ian Gary's going to fight Conor McGregor just because Dana said, because I saw this post first, right? It said Dana leaks Conor McGregor's next fight with Ian Machado Gary in Ireland. And it's like, wait, what? So then I actually watched the clip of what Dana said, and he was just saying, he was talking about Ian individually and talking about Conor individually and then talking about Ireland individually. And he literally said, we won't see either one of their fights in Ireland, but we want to go back there, or Dublin or some shit like that. So of course you get these, social media pages that want to clip it together, put a clickbait thing on there. And of course, it got me. Well, it didn't really get me, because all I did was read the words on the picture that I saw, and then I saw the clip later and realized that that wasn't true whatsoever. So you got to be careful, kind of, what you read and what you believe. If you're just scrolling through social media and catching, headlines of something, if you don't look into it, man, it's kind of hard to feel confident about just saying, like, I have people come up to me because they know I do this, or they know how much of a fan I am, and they're like, is it true Conor McGregor's going to fight John Jones? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? First of all, neither one of these guys are in the UFC, like, ready to fight right now. They don't have fights lined up, so they're not going to be fighting each other. Neither one of them have fought in a minute, especially Conor. No, I heard something or read something on social media. I'm like, oh man. And I know that we all get got by those kinds of things, but I think it's more annoying that people put shit out like that can even, make somebody think that. But people, that the way that other people interpret things is not those pages' problems, which I understand. That's why there's that gray area, right? There's like that clickbaity shit, that stuff that kind of edges on the, the line of clickbait. And then there's the ones where people just completely misconstrue what's said. So it's tough, man. I guess there's no winning in it. What do you think? Who do you think is telling the truth so far, John or Dana? Do you think John should have gotten more than the 15 mil? Like, asking you personally, do you think John's 15 million offer was good or too low considering what he's done in his career? So everything that I've heard and seen and heard people talk about is that, they did offer him that 30 mil and he turned that down. So that's the problem on both sides. If they offered him that 30 mil, then that means they were willing to pay that. So if they were, hey, what's up? EFEF. I'm not sure if that's an actual word, but yeah. Hey, welcome in. Appreciate you. Is that the Russian flag you got going on there? I'm assuming a Mozart fan. But yeah, welcome in. Appreciate you. Hey, what's up from France? Damn. What's going on? Welcome in. Appreciate you guys. But I think that the UFC's problem is that they offered John Jones that 30 mil. Turkey. Oh, okay. Oh, what the hell? Maybe I'm seeing that wrong. Oh yeah, because it's like tiny in the little thing that I'm seeing here. Oh, I should have looked over to this chat because that would have made more sense. My bad. Turkey, what's up? I do not know any French anything. Yeah, I could barely see it, man. I don't even know. I just saw red. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, so the UFC offers him 30 mil. That means they were willing to pay that, but he turned it down, man. So yeah, it's like if you turn that down, then you can't expect them to go ahead and give you that offer back the next time when that could have helped them out in that moment. So it's a little bit of both their faults. And I feel like 15 mil is fair, but I think, if they should give John a little more. I do think they should give him a little more. I think by this point in time, he should be making a decent amount. Maybe not for every fight, but for a big fight, a title fight, why not? And I think if they can't come to terms at 15, why not just up it to 20? And if John isn't good with that, he shouldn't have turned down the 30. You know what I'm saying? He was willing and ready to do it then. Why didn't he continue on with that plan and just do it when he's getting offered that kind of money, which from what I understand, he's never been offered that kind of money to fight in the UFC before. Maybe something close, but I don't know that he's gotten that much money to fight in the UFC. I mean, for just a fight. So if they offered that, that's on them. That just shows him what they're willing to pay. And then if they're not willing to come back to that price point, well, that's kind of John's fault. He shouldn't have turned it down. So they're both a little to blame. I think he deserves it. As much as I hate on John Jones sometimes, I do think he deserves it, and I do think that it's worth paying him that to see if he can become the champ again. And because we all know he doesn't have too many more fights left in him. So, do you think John would have made the White House bigger spectacle, or would it? I think it would have, because of John Jones having a name, because of his name, and because people tend to know who he is, whether they're new or old fans. I feel like maybe the new fans don't hold him as in such a high regard as the old fans do, but I still think they all know who he is. So I do think it would have. I think it would have added some value to that card, because what they offered to us for the White House card was that it was going to be a bigger event than the Sphere even was. And I feel like they came up a little short on the Sphere as well, as far as a card went. We had some good fights on there, but I felt like it could have been a little bit better of a card, but it still turned out to be a good event. It was just very, very long. So there was a little bit too much going on. But I think that John Jones's name value would have added to this card and would have made it even bigger than it is. Because, I was sitting here talking about how, we're not getting big fights leading up to this White House card because they're saving a bunch of title fights, or at least number one contender fights for that White House card. And then look at the matchups we got. So the majority of that card are not big matchups that we thought we were going to get. We just got two big title fights, which is fine and great. And I'm actually excited for those fights, even though I think Cyril Gane versus Poatan, I felt like that could have been something different. Maybe not have Cyril Gane in there, but he's still maybe a little bit dangerous to Pereira. So I guess it's valid. And it's cool that we're going to be seeing them, going for an interim and then hopefully fighting Aspinall shortly after. But I think John Jones versus Poatan would have been a way bigger fight, but I don't know that would have been for an interim. I don't think John would have wanted to fight for an interim coming off of relinquishing his belt, he would have been wanting to fight for that, for the, you know, the real title, the actual title. So it's just a lot of stuff, man. And it's just the same things kind of over and over again. And it sucks that we have to just continuously talk about the money and John, you know, John would wrestle Alex to win against Alex. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't doubt it at all. If he was smart, you know what I mean? But John's smart, but sometimes I just kind of like what he did with DC, where he wrestled DC and said he got him down and took him down and stuff. It's like he'll do a little bit of that. So I feel like he might have tried to exchange with Alex because he knows that he's a high level striker as well. And I think he would have tried to exchange with Alex a little bit, maybe just at first. And that would have been the only time that Pineda might have been able to, you know, get the better of him. So, and then John, if John might, you know, gets tagged or even gets close to getting hit and feels that power of Pineda, he would have definitely straight gone to the wrestling, or he might just do that out from the get-go and do what he did to Cyril. But yeah, it would have been interesting. I just don't know. The name values of those two would have made it bigger, I guess. Think UFC will pay more when they're under new leadership? No, because technically they're running it as a business now. It's not for the love of the sport. It's not even for the people in charge to the higher ups as fans. These are people that are just there for the business. The whole talk around everything has been, now that they're Paramount, they got their money. So they're not here to make blockbuster fights anymore. They're here to just keep that money flowing. So the best don't fight the best. Yeah, that's kind of how it is now. I mean, Dana White used to talk about how he makes all of the best fights in all of combat sports. And you don't really hear him saying that anymore. You've kind of heard him tiptoe around that, but because then he says that he's not the one making the matchups. So it's like, well, you know, he doesn't have to claim that anymore if he's not the one making the matchups. But then he claims that they came to him with all these matchups for the White House and he approved them or whatever. So mixed signals, mixed, you know, answers and stuff there. But it's all just a toss up, man, because we never know exactly what Dana is telling the truth about, what he's just kind of putting out there to make sure he controls the narrative. That's kind of how he's been for a long time now. We going to see more ranked fighters fight unranked fighters? Probably. And here's the thing. How much do we want to give? Definitely not, Johnny. That's actually 100% my feelings as well about Brendan Allen shouldn't be fighting an unranked fighter. But the problem is, you know, this is where the UFC is. I don't know if they're smart about this, or if I don't know if it's because they're smart or if it's just because it just so happened to coincidentally end up this way. But people talk mad shit about the rankings and how they don't make sense ever. So I can see from the UFC's vantage point that they can't win no matter what, because everyone will talk shit about the rankings, right? About how they're not official rankings. They're made up rankings by people who barely give a shit about the sport and randomized people, really. So then you get fights like the Brendan Allen one where he's fighting an unranked fighter, and it's like everyone's complaining about, oh my God, come on, get it together. Sorry, talking about the game. But then you get fights like this and people want to complain about that, and then they want to talk about how, you know, oh, he shouldn't be fighting an unranked fighter. The UFC can just turn around and come back and say, hey, listen, you guys bitch about the rankings all the time, so who gives a shit, right? You don't think the rankings are valuable. You seem to think they're full of shit and they suck and they don't really matter. So why would it matter if Brendan Allen's getting an unranked opponent or not? See what I'm saying? So, ooh, that was nice. So that's where it gets, the waters get murky. So that's kind of what I see it as, and that's why sometimes I get a little frustrated with everyone wanting to talk. Not you guys, I'm saying everyone in general, constantly wanting to talk about all of these things, about the rankings, about John Jones, you know, because it is just a game of tug of war. and who's gonna pull harder and pull someone across that line, because it's always about the same things. There's two sides, there's no middle ground, there's just two sides fighting against each other, and each one can bring up good points as to why the other person is full of shit, because everyone gives those reasons. Everyone makes those reasons available for grabbing and using against each other, like the UFC, wanting to offer John that money and then not willing to go back to that amount down the road because he said no. Makes sense in some route, but at the other, it's like, okay, so you're not gonna, just because he said no, you're not gonna offer anybody else that money, even though they might deserve it. And yeah, and then the same thing with the rankings, like I just explained. So it's tough, man. It's tough, and it gets me going because, I listen to so many other podcasts and shows, and Imavov might have to fight DDP. Ooh, that was a nice shot. But do you think the UFC is on a downwards or upwards trajectory, though? Given the White House is on the horizon, but Ronda and all those fighters are on Dana about fighter pay. That's the thing, though. The fighter pay never ends. The fighter pay thing never ends. And they've tried before. They've had big name fighters on board to, number one, sue the UFC as a company, which they've won some of those suits, lost some of them, all that. And then they've tried to come up with collective bargaining things. They've tried to come up with associations or unions or whatever you want to call it. They've tried to gather all these big names, but the problem is the biggest ones in the sport at this moment right now that make the headlines, put asses in seats and eyes on the screens, those guys don't want to fucking go. Those guys and girls don't want to fucking give up what they're getting already, because they're already getting what they didn't think they would. And they know where they came from and what was happening, and they know what's happening to the guys that are lower down, and they don't want to give up the money that they're getting. So it's not a team sport. There's no teams. You don't have a big collective group of players that are willing to do this or do that and get other teams on board. These guys are all in it for themselves, these men and women, and not too many of them are going to want to give up what they're getting right now if they're getting paid a good wage. And those are the ones you need the most. The ones with the names, the ones that bring all the eyes and put butts in seats. Those are the ones that you need on board, and those are the hardest ones to get on board. So if everybody collectively said, listen, we can't have this, and everyone needs to 100% just deny everything and don't sign a contract for this upcoming fight. You know what I mean? Next fight's going up. Don't anybody sign a contract. And when they try to get other people, don't sign that contract either. Everyone has to get on board. So you got to understand, trying to get everybody to do that, it's not going to happen. But right now is the time when the UFC just got this humongous fucking deal for broadcasting. I think it was probably Brendan Schaub that was talking about this, and it made a lot of sense to me. And it was kind of something that, I was like, wouldn't this be the time? Well, I thought the time would have been when they knew that this deal was coming up, that would have been the best time, I would have thought. But he makes a good point when he says right now is a good time for the fighters to actually do this, because Paramount is like, listen, we already put up all this damn money. So then you're not going to pull through by getting your fighters to come out here and put together the biggest fights or any fights, because they don't give a shit maybe about they maybe don't give a shit about the standard of or the quality of fight, but they will give a shit if they get no fights to be able to put on. See what I'm saying? So if everybody were to come out right now and say, we're not going to fight, it's just not going to happen. The guys that are contracted, sure. But the guys that are supposed to be signing contracts coming up, you got to start there. And don't let those be signed unless you're getting the right pay. And then let that trickle down, or else nobody signs. And if you're on a contract, then you can get in trouble. If you don't sign that contract, then to fight for your next fight, everyone's in limbo and no one fights until the pay goes where it needs to go, or at least goes up. So I think the UFC is going to stay where it is on an even straight line. It's not going to go up or down until someone decides that it's not worth it anymore, the fights that are being put on, or until the fighters themselves stick up and for themselves and for each other and decide all together that something needs to happen. But here's the deal. Paramount already has the UFC locked in for 7 years. The UFC's already, that money's already accounted for pretty much. So as for now, Jason G. Humpy, main. As for now,
What's happening with you, man?
we that's locked in for the next 7 years. So the only thing that can keep the UFC from doing what they need to do is if the fighters refuse to fight, and that's not going to happen. So it's going to be too hard, I would say, in any time in the near future for anything to change. Sure, this thing with Ronda Rousey and MVP MMA or Netflix MMA, whatever you want to call it, that's pushing some eyes and questions to the UFC, making them a little bit uncomfortable. But what results are we going to see from it? Because we've seen this happen before. And like I said, the past 2 shows, I think I've talked about it, where if Ronda would have got the money from the UFC, she wouldn't be talking about any of this. It would be all about how great Dana is, how much she appreciates everything he's ever done. Because she's already saying that, which is great. That shows real appreciation, that she doesn't agree with what he's doing now, but she still appreciates what she's done for him and what she's learned from him. But when it comes down to it, if she would have got that money from the UFC, she wouldn't be talking negatively about any of this. I pretty much guarantee it. I could be wrong, of course, because what do I know? But to me, I believe she would have just gone along with it, gotten it done, unless the UFC tried to back out of something with her. Remember, she said, Hunter Campbell, you fucked with the wrong bitch. And that's it. That's just it. You fucked with her and her money. So now she's out to get you, and she's going to use what she has against you to talk about it and bring eyes to the problem. And she's going to be able to bring a little more of that over than some other people that might have complaints. Like Cajun Johnson. I keep seeing this whole documentary thing going on because he got screwed quite a bit throughout his career, and the fact he was one of the guys that headed up one of these lawsuits, and he just doesn't have that name. He doesn't have that name like Ronda Rousey, like Conor McGregor, like John Jones, like any of these big names. So it's going to take them to do it, and Ronda's just one of them doing it somewhere that it doesn't matter, because Dana doesn't give a shit. And congrats to the U of A Wildcats. They got the win over Utah State, 78-66. If you weren't watching the game, that's why I got my hat on. That's why I keep looking up. And I'm I just kept talking. And this is something that's really in my head, because I was able to keep talking about that while paying attention to this game. And I just kept going. And I just realized we're half an hour into the show, and I haven't even talked about the fights yet. But I appreciate the interaction and the questions, because it does get me thinking, and it does get me to be able to release like the things that I was thinking about everything. Who do you think winning the NBA title? NBA? I don't know, man. I don't follow it that closely. I'm only following March Madness right now because, well, it's fun to do, every year. And on top of that, it's all over the place anyway. But like I said, the U of A, the home team here for me, is doing well. So, and they got the win. So I'm hoping they pull through and make it all the way to the final, and fingers crossed, win that final. That's the ultimate goal, of course. But I definitely want to see them get there, and then we'll worry about winning when we get there. So hopefully that happens. But again, I appreciate the interaction and the thoughtful questions. Antoine, you're always there with the questions. Johnny, you bring the funny and you bring the serious, so I appreciate that too. And everyone else in there always jumping in. I appreciate you guys. Like, this is what makes the show more interesting and fun. I like being able to bounce things off of people. As you know, I don't usually have a co-host. Sometimes I bring people in, and that's always fun too. I'm thinking about, because Phil from Combat Sports Today, I know I've talked about him a lot. He's been in the chat, and you guys have heard about him, but one of these times he's been on one of the shows before. When I first started doing stuff with Combat Sports Today, I had him and one of the other guys, the MMA fool. I had them on the show. I've had Mike from Mike Talks. He does his own show as well on YouTube and social media and stuff, and he's a part of Combat Sports Today. I've had him on the show as well. But Phil sounds like he wants to jump back on again sometime soon. So maybe I can set that up for 327. That would be cool because that's actually a pretty decent card. So Phil, if you're hearing this or you see this, yeah, think about that. But I'm in a chat. I have I have a direct connection to him, so I'll hit him up and see what he thinks. Maybe we can make that work out. That would be a cool one to do, I think, because it's such a good card. But for the next card, I'm excited about that one. Like I said, with Adesanya versus Piper, even with the worries I have for that card, I still feel like it's gonna be a good one in that main event. So, and then you got Alexa Grasso versus Macy Barber as well, and there's a few other good fights on there. So let's get to this UFC London card though, because yeah, I haven't talked about it yet, and we're, like I said, already half an hour through. So let's get to it. Let's talk about UFC London. I just don't bring the Arizona iced tea. What? Yeah, so Evloev versus Murphy, both undefeated fighters, both 9-0 in the UFC even. And Lerone Murphy's was coming off that big spinning back elbow knockout of Aaron Pico. Evloev 9-0 in the UFC, all decisions. But we see his dominance with the wrestling and grappling, and he showed off some striking in this fight too. While I didn't see it being super effective in the way that other high-level strikers are, I do think I'm going to turn off this TV because I keep looking up at it like it matters. I already know what happened, so that's all I needed from that. But yeah, so I mean, there was some stuff shown in this fight, but still we came out with a decision. So now it's 10-0 for Evloev with a decision win again. We'll dive deeper into that one when we get there. Of course, I like to go from the bottom to the top with the prelims, so we have to recap those as well as the main card fights. So let's get to doing that. And like I said, we had our first fight of the night were the women, and I know I talked shit a little bit because of the fact that we had two women's fights in the first two fights of the night for prelims, and I was wrong about one of them. At least the one fight, Luana Carolina versus Melissa Mullins, got canceled because Carolina missing weight. Mullins actually I guess she had a rough weight cut too, and she was on the scale crying and shaking because she was so relieved to have made the weight, but then her opponent misses weight and she doesn't get to fight. So it's a damn shame. So I feel bad for her on that one, but dude, 8 pounds, that's a lot of fucking weight to miss by. So it's kind of crazy. So the first fight of the night wound up being Chanel Dyer versus Ravina Oliveira. And yeah, we got a second round TKO off of this one with Chanel Dyer actually getting the performance of the night bonus, being the first fight of the night. That's tough, man. That's tough to get that bonus when you're the first fight of the night, because there's gonna be like 15 other fights, not 15, but what was it, 6 fights, and then so 12 other fights that could be better than yours. What are the chances that not more than one of them was better than yours, and they wound up getting the performance of the night bonus? Well, Chanel Dyer does with that TKO win. And yeah, I mean, it was just a good statement made by her with her UFC debut, second round TKO. She was aggressive, she stayed composed, she got some good strikes in there, getting Oliveira to the ground. And Oliveira was like, looked at the ref at one point in time while she's on the ground getting beat on, like, I'm done, like, this is over, I'm done. She kind of had that look. I was kind of thinking she was verbally tapping, and Dyer just came in and blasted her with a couple more shots on the ground. So it was kind of crazy. And but it was a great way to get the night started with the women proving me wrong, and I'd rather that than have them come through with that boring decision that we get a lot of out of a lot of the women's fights. And yeah, I appreciate this way happening even more. So that was Chanel Dyer versus Ravina Oliveira, starting the night off with a finish. And then we get Abdul Karim Al Zawadi versus Shamrock. And of course, Shamrock being somewhat of a you know, kind of a hometown, not hometown, but homeland fucking type of fight for him. And these guys had some heat with each other at the weigh-ins because Shamrock was, here you go, Antoine.
Smoke weed every day.
Shamrock was kind of getting handsy with El Selwadi at the weigh-ins and pushed him or whatever. So they came in with a little bit of heat, and it continued because, you know, Shamrock's over there trying to get Selwadi to shake his hand pretty much after every single round, pretty much. And he just wasn't having it, basically, because he was just like, hey, what the fuck, man? You pushed me in the weigh-ins and now you want to come and do this. So yeah, he wasn't having it. And at the end of the third round, they actually Shamrock said, hey, are you gonna shake my hand now? He puts his hand out to him, and El Sawadi was like, no, not doing it, man, what the fuck. So Shamrock kind of threw a little backhand slap at him, and so El Sawadi goes running after him. I don't know if you guys like paid attention to that one or saw that, but yeah, so a little bit of heat going on there. I guess after the fact, El Sawadi said that they shook hands and you know, put the beef behind them. They squashed it. But El Sawadi gets the win by unanimous decision. I mean, as far as the fight itself went, it just kind of seemed like it was a solid showing for El Sawadi. Shamrock being kind of homeland. Yeah, Antoine, that's why, because Shamrock was basically just kind of, I don't know if you want to call it rage baiting him or but he just kept trying to shake his hand after he pushed him in the weigh-ins. So that last thing right at the end of the round is because Shamrock tried to shake his hand again and he said no. So he kind of threw a little backhand at him, but he might not be UFC caliber. This was a winnable fight for him. Yeah, and I think people had higher hopes for him. So it was, you know, one of those fights that wasn't a huge deal for the most part, but yeah, it was kind of sucked. It was kind of a bad showing for Shamrock, and I think that puts him at 0-2 in the UFC now, if I remember correctly. Let me double check that. Yeah, puts him at 0-2, 2 unanimous decision losses. So not only is he, you know, it's tough when you're getting finished in those fights that you're losing when you've only been in the UFC for a couple fights and you lose them both by finish. But at least there's kind of some action, you know what I mean? I can't even remember what Shamrock's last fight looked like, and this one wasn't much better than that. So I think that he's gonna have to worry about what happens in his next fight, if he even gets a next fight. But he, you know, he has some decent training partners that are well known and is from a camp that's known. So maybe that'll help him out, and he gets one more to try to prove himself in the UFC. As for El Sawadi, you know, after the drama at the end there or whatever, he still comes out the winner and he's good to go. And that puts him at I think that put him at 2 wins. No, this puts him in the win column because he lost his first fight in the UFC. So now he's 1-1 in the UFC. So you kind of had 2 same caliber type guys. And yeah, he gets the win, so he gets to move on and see what kind of opponent they give him next. What up, Tyler Fish? Welcome in. Appreciate you for coming back. Let's move on to the heavyweights. And we had Louis Sutherland versus Brando Pierchek. Tyler Betts, yo, damn, both of you jumping, both Tylers at the same time. Yeah, so this one didn't last long. 1:48 seconds in, Louis Sutherland basically got hit by Pierchek, I think. I forget how you said it, how they said his name, but he basically gets hit by him, and it just goes downhill from there. Pretty much, Pierchek just stayed on top of him and was able to, you know, get it done. He pretty much was efficient with his striking. He got it done quickly. First round knockout. It was quick. You know, there was some decent violence in there. We got Pierchek just beating on Sutherland and gets it done quickly. So what's up, Tommy? Welcome in. Appreciate you. And that takes us over to the next fight, which was, where am I at? Another tough name to say, but Antonio Tricoli versus Montes Condratavicius, I think. I kept calling him Condra because that's just too damn much to say. What up, Magix? PVG, what's going on? Appreciate you guys for jumping in and checking out the show. Yeah, this fight, another decision. Like I said, we had a lot of decisions, but some of them, some of them were worth watching. We had some decent, back and forth battles in some of these fights. This one, I would say, it wasn't the best fight out there. It wasn't super flashy, but Condra gets the win by unanimous decision. He puts his hands on Tricoli. Downhill since 300 entertainment wise. No, that's for sure, Tyler. Yeah, there wasn't just a whole lot going on. I was hoping for a little more in this fight. I was hoping for Tricoli to really get some kind of fire under his ass to get something done in this fight, but he was not able to do that. I mean, he was 0-3 coming into this fight, and now he's 0-4, which is a damn shame. And I don't know how the fuck they're going to allow him to stay in the UFC if he does stay in the UFC. It's crazy. He didn't even win his fight in the Contender Series. It was a no contest. And now he's 0-4 in the UFC, losing to people like Tracion Gore. So it's a tough one. And I feel like I don't see how he gets another fight in the UFC at all. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But this puts Condratavicius at 1-0 in the UFC, coming off the Contender Series where he got a win there by TKO as well, or by TKO in the first round, and then he comes in with a unanimous decision win over Antonio Tricoli. It's gonna be, interesting what they give him next. It wasn't a super exciting fight, but it was decent enough to show some skills, and he gets the win over a guy who was 0-3. So again, he's probably going to get another guy that's like 1-2 or 2-1 or 1-1 or something like that in his next fight. But we'll see what he gets and what he can do if he can come back with the finishing power in his next fight after doing that in the Contender Series. That leads us into the next fight with a little bit more exciting fight. And this was Mario Pinto versus Felipe Franco. These guys seem to want to get down and throw down for sure. It wasn't like anything crazy, but Mario Pinto keeps his undefeated record. This was the first one of the night for undefeated records, and he was able to withhold that undefeated record, and now it puts him at 12-0 with the win over Felipe Franco, and that puts Pinto at 3-0. So he got 2 finishes in a row before this, 3 if you count the one in the Contender Series. So he gets the unanimous decision here, but Franco put up a decent fight and didn't allow him to get finished. I wouldn't say it was a crazy fight or nothing, but Pinto at least, showed some signs of life in there. He gets the decision. He kept himself composed, and it was a solid win, but nothing crazy, like I said. So they're bigger dudes, and they seem to want to throw, but they were still a little bit hesitant. Just another unanimous decision win. This next fight was definitely a little bit closer, and a split decision win from Nathaniel Wood over Losane Kaita. I was kind of back and forth about this fight. I wasn't sure which way it would go, because I know Nathaniel Wood is one of those guys that a lot of people like. He's a good fighter. He's got some great skills, but Kaita seems to have some power that if he gets his hands on you, it's something to worry about. But with this one, it was pretty close. It comes down to a split decision. Let me find. Oh, there it is. They both got some good striking in. We're able to make it a good competition between the two of them. But it was technical. It was a striking battle. Nothing dominant from either side, but they both had their moments, and Nathaniel Wood is able to come out the winner by split decision. That puts him at 11-3 in the UFC, and that gives him quite a bit of That's his third win in a row, all by decision though. The thing is he makes it difficult on his opponents because he's not an easy guy to slow down or finish from what we've seen. But he also isn't the one to do the finishing either. I mean, he's got 10 wins by decision now, but he has 7 wins by KO, TKO, and 6 by sub. So a decent amount in between those two, but he has double digits and more wins by decision than anything else. So you know you're likely to get that when you're watching a fight with him, but he keeps it interesting. And he kept it close with Kaito, who I thought was going to get. He's got 10 wins by KO, TKO, and only 1 loss there. There's zeros in that submission column and 6 wins by decision. And this was his UFC debut coming in. And unfortunately for him, he gets the loss in his first fight, but it's by split decision. So some decent, ring time, or, octagon time, cage time for him. And that gives him, a little bit more experience, and he gets that first fight out of the way. And it was close. It wasn't like he got shut out, so he has potential to get another opponent and, really put his name out there with a big win if he can get that done in his next fight. So we'll see who they match him up with next. And same with Wood. That was your split decision win there in the men's featherweight division. Next up, we had the fight, one of the damn biggest fights of the night, the craziest. Where we at? Oh, Mason Jones versus Axel Sola. It was cool to see he just made the weight this time to be real. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because that's right. We had that one where he dropped out. That's why I was thinking he already had a fight in the UFC. I keep thinking that even last week. But yeah, Kaita missed weight that last time, and the fight got canceled. So he made the weight. So if maybe it's a slow trend upward for him, but maybe he'll get there. I know he's got some power in his hands and he has potential. He just got to keep it on track. So this was by far one of the best fights of the night. Mason Jones versus Axel Sola. They got the fight of the night. So they got compensated for that. And, everybody gets the bonus in the fight of the night. So they both get 100K, which is good for them. As you see, bloody fight, man. It was a bloody fight. It was a damn war. Mason Jones got dropped in that first round pretty hard and was, he got back up quickly and he was on wobbly, shaky legs, but Sola wasn't able to get him out of there. Mason Jones is just too tough, and he was able to bounce back. And after that first round, he pretty much took over. Obviously, he still got some strikes landed on him. But, Mason was doing the most damage. You can see that huge gash on the cheek of, I think it's the right cheek of Sola, which I think came from a knee, if I remember correctly, or maybe an elbow. But, yeah, and he was just getting touched up. So Mason Jones is just a tough motherfucker, man. That fool can throw, and he's, when he lands with full power. So he's definitely causing damage, and Sola's face was beaten up, but Jones's face had some damage on it as well. But it was a war in there. Best fight of the prelims for sure. Best fight of the night, according to the bonuses. And Mason Jones is able to grind out a unanimous decision. It was a back and forth fight, but a lot of pressure. Everyone was pressing forward. A lot of durability shown by each fighter. And yeah, they both deserved that fight of the night for sure. They both did their thing in the best way possible. So it was a good fight to watch and to lead us into the main card fights. And that's where we'll head next, starting with Danny Silva versus Curtis Campbell. And yeah, it seemed like everybody had their money on Curtis Campbell in this one. I didn't think he was, I feel like he was an impressive fighter when he fought in the Ultimate Fighter, or I'm sorry, the Contender Series, but I wasn't thinking anything crazy. He got that first round finish in the Contender Series, as we've seen a lot of guys get first round finishes, and sure, some of them are more impressive than others as far as whatever KO or TKO comes out of it. But this guy, for some reason, had a lot of people behind him, and he comes into his UFC debut and fights Danny Silva, who is undefeated and is able to Oh, I'm sorry, not undefeated. Campbell was undefeated and wasn't able to hold on to that undefeated record. But Danny Silva was 2-1 in the UFC, coming off a loss to Kevin Vallejos, who we know is obviously in contention right now, and doing well, finishing bigger name fighters even. So that's not really that wasn't an easy fight for him. He lost to a guy who's just on the come up right now. So but he comes back and shows that he's been there before and done it before, and he put some work in on Campbell, was able to get the win. Campbell's it was like a hometown type of fight for him as well, and Danny Silva comes in and upsets that one, doesn't allow him to get the win. Campbell was 8-0 before this, and it didn't show well. I mean, when Silva really started just landing on him, it was over. It was kind of quick. That first round was a little back and forth. We get to the second round, and 31 seconds in is when Silva gets the TKO win, and he just swarmed on Campbell and was able to put together some good punches and get him out of there. 31 seconds in to the second round. So what was it 31 seconds? Yeah, 31 seconds in. And I saw that second round and I was like, okay, they both kind of looked all right in that first round. It wasn't a bad first round, but the way Silva just came out and finished Campbell was pretty impressive. It was a good win for him, and he was able to silence the crowd because obviously they were going for Campbell. That's Campbell's first loss, and we'll see what happens for Silva next. Now that puts him at 2-1, and I'm sure he'll get a decent opponent for his next one. So let's move on to Roman Dolidze versus CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan. I feel like this fight was pretty good. CLD just looking good with the striking. I feel like Dolidze is just lost a step or two for sure, and I feel like he's just there to get hit. It's what it seems like. That's what it feels like at times. He just doesn't. It's like he has a lot of momentum to put together some offense, but just can't seem to have his defense work at the same time. And everything that gets thrown at him lands, it feels like. So it was a good, clean, kind of technical striking battle for CLD. I mean, there was a little bit of grappling involved. I think at the end of one of the rounds, Dolidze had Duncan on the ground and was on top, but it wasn't anything crazy. Duncan was able to stay composed, and he just kind of kept it cool and kept doing what was working. Even if he got in trouble, he was able to come back and figure things out. He landed a good flying knee to the body of Dolidze, and just kind of impressed on the feet, And like I said, Dolidze just is there to get hit at most times. So Duncan gets the win 29-28 across the board, which means the one round that I was talking about with Dolidze kind of finishing on top. I feel like he that was the round he got. He was able to win. But yeah, overall, CLD gets the win here. Lord of the Rings, I'm not a big fan. I tried to watch it. I couldn't get into it. And I know that's not a popular opinion, but my wife likes it. I just wasn't able to get into it. So no, I technically haven't really seen them, as I tried to sit down and watch here and there, and it just, I would fall asleep or be paying more attention to my phone, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm not a big fan. I did watch Star Wars, back in the day for sure. And then when they started coming out with the new ones, I've seen a lot of them. I'm not a big Harry Potter fan either. I can honestly say it. I don't know that I've ever watched an entire Harry Potter movie at all whatsoever. So those just aren't my brand of movies, really. I like more action or comedy. I did want to ask you what movies you have been watching lately. I can't even remember. I don't even know what actual movies I've seen, because a lot of times when we're watching stuff, it all kind of comes together as if I don't even know if I'm watching a movie or a show. That's the way it is these days. Sometimes it's like, are we watching a movie or a show? I don't know. It kind of loses me. But what was that last movie? I did watch a movie not that long ago. Well, I did go to the theater and watch Scream 7, and that's because my daughter really wanted to see it, so we went with her. And that was probably the last movie I saw. So, and it was decent, you know. Like I said, I think I said it when around the time that I watched it, that it was kind of a throwback to when I was watching Scream when it was first came out. My favorite movie of all time, that's tough. I mean, Friday's always been one of my favorite movies. I know Fast and the Furious aren't popular these days, but Fast and the Furious, or Too Fast, Too Furious, and Tokyo Drift were one of my favorites. The first three really were some of my big favorites. Biker Boys is a little corny at times, but I was obsessed with that movie for a long time, considering I used to ride a bike. It was just one of those movies that interested me. And then, yeah, I mean, a lot of the MMA movies, they're just... Never Back Down was interesting when it was made. It's tough to call that still. Same with, what was the other one? The two brothers, Warrior. I mean, that was a decent movie, I guess, but it just seems like none of the big MMA movies are very great, which is kind of sad. But yeah, so those are just a few of my favorite movies. I used to watch a lot more movies than I do now, but I would say like Superbad is one of my favorite movies as well. Pulp Fiction. These are some movies that I will turn on when I'm out of town for work and stuff. I will turn them on to be in the background. Seeing a guy, math teacher, and yeah, it kind of followed, you know, like Rich Franklin's type of story to a certain extent, and then, you know, just having real fighters in there like Rumble Johnson and a couple other guys that were in the movie made it cool too. So yeah, I think Warrior was good. I'll still watch it to this day, so not bad. But yeah, moving on, we had a very quick fight, Iwo Baranowski versus Austin Lane, and I hate to say it, man, but what did I fucking tell you? Like, Austin Lane just needs to go to and do some like go do some like, you know, influencer MMA or some shit. Go do Misfits MMA. Tom Hardy was, oh yeah, Tom. Yeah, Brian Callen was basically the Joe Rogan of the cast, and Tom Hardy, yeah, funny enough that he becomes a black belt and wins some tournaments like, you know, years down the road. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, Austin Lane, man, this dude just needs to go somewhere else and probably make some better money for what he's doing, and stop worrying about being considered a UFC fighter because it's not working for him. I hate to say that. It sucks because, like, I think Antoine said it last time, is it seems like Austin Lane's a good dude, but this is just not his thing. It's not at this level. Maybe PFL will take you. You can get a couple fights there, or go, like I said, go to Misfits MMA. Try this Netflix MMA thing. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know if you have the kind of record they're looking for, but they might be interested. But the UFC is not a place for Austin Lane. I just don't understand how he's still here. And you know, I know people said that about Tai Tuivasa because he's like on a 6-fight losing streak or some shit like that. But at least Tai can make it interesting, and there's always that chance of him getting a big like punch to land and getting a knockout. But holy shit, Austin Lane is just absolute garbage, and I hate being that much of a dick about it, but I've been saying this for the past 3 or 4 times that he's fought. It's like, what are we doing? He is 1-5 in the UFC, and this is his 3rd loss in a row. Like, what are we doing? Because he lost 2 in a row when he came into the UFC. All right, sure, he won his Contender Series fight in the first round. Okay, that was back in 2022. He comes in, he gets a no contest with Justin Tafa. I think that was the eye poke thing. And then He comes back and loses to Tafa, loses to Johanata Denise. By the way, he's gotten finished in all 5 of these losses that he's had. So he lost 2 in a row to Tafa and Denise, wins against Robeles de Spain by unanimous decision, which isn't very impressive because of the opponent. If you knew how he was in the UFC, de Spain was just horrible in the UFC. And for Austin Lane to come in and beat him was crazy. And then comes back out of that and loses 3 in a row. Mario Pinto, Vitor Petrino, and now Iwo Baranowski. Not taking anything away from Baranowski, but you know, it's not a good look. He gets it done 28 seconds into the first round. If you are a stand-up fighter, you can stay in the UFC while having a losing streak. Yeah, I mean, that's proven to be true at this point, Johnny. So you're not wrong about that. Imagine how his family feels. I know, man. That's why I feel bad saying it. But you know, sometimes it just has to be said. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, this is not for you. Like, being in the UFC is not for you. You just have to, man. It's like, I feel bad for the guy because I don't want to see him, you know. It's not like I hate the dude. He is not a good fighter. He is not a good fighter. And you know, what he's doing right now is what I wish some of the fighters that I actually dislike a lot would experience instead of someone like him. But you know, it's like he was a football player. He was, you know, a decent football player, and he comes over to the UFC and it's just not working out for him, man. So I would prefer to see him go and do his thing somewhere else where he might be able to even make some more money than he's making here. But speaking about that, because we were talking about fighter pay earlier, I did hear somebody say on a podcast that one of the fighters were talking about how, you know, some guys don't want to just leave the UFC because of pay problems, because they at least know where their next paycheck's going to come from. Now that doesn't apply to everybody, obviously, but they basically know that not only are they supposedly, you know, contracted to at least offer them a set amount of fights throughout the year, but they also have to fill up these cards. So you know you're going to get a fight at some point in time, and it's just a matter of some of these guys are in a weird situation in their career that, you know, like Colby Covington, because he's the one that was talking about that. I feel like they at least know that they're going to get offered a fight, and then they can take it, and then they know that they're going to get a check after that. They know how much that check's going to be, and possibly actually be double that, if not triple, if they get a bonus. So, you know, how much do you think Lane is getting paid? Can't be over 100K. I highly doubt it, man. I highly doubt it. He's definitely one of those guys that came over from playing football, probably was pretty good with his money, and was like, hey, I'm a tough dude, I'm an athletic dude, I'm a big dude, and I like fighting, so let me try it out. And maybe that's why he's still here, because he's like, oh, I'm just making extra money on top of what I already have, and I just want to prove that I can win. I don't know what it is, but it's weird. But I don't know, I'd be surprised if he's getting over 100K as far as a face value, you know, check. Maybe 100K total if he shows and wins. But I mean, it's always a toss-up. You never truly know. MVP should fight Colby next. I would love to see that, because I feel like if Colby talks any amount of shit that he does to anybody else to MVP, I think MVP would make him suffer. I feel like that might be the fire that needs to be lit under MVP's ass to get him back to the way he used to fight. And I would love to see that happen, especially to Colby, because I just do not like Colby Covington. But I can't avoid or disagree with the things he's been saying lately about fights. But it also matters about his attitude, the way he acts with certain things, and the fact that, you know, trying to sue or get Masvidal thrown in jail was way more important to him than actually fighting. So he turned down a bunch of fights because he had to hold up and maintain his story of having brain damage or trauma to his, or head trauma, due to Masvidal sucker punching him. Even though he gets hit way more in a fight by guys who, you know, are on top of him and beating the shit out of him, and yet the one sucker punch apparently caused him head trauma, and he had to keep that going. So of course he wasn't fighting during that time. MVP should, Colby might wrestle MVP to a decision. I mean, it's possible. I'm just saying, I would hope that Colby would talk a lot of shit to him, piss him off, and have a fire started under his ass to fight like the MVP of old. That would be awesome. But yeah, I mean, if Colby's on top of his game, but Colby looked old and slow in his last fight, man. He did. So even Dana said it, and I'm not saying it just because Dana did. When I was watching it, I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, Colby just looks like garbage right now, which kind of made me smile because, like I said, I'm not a big fan of his. I'm not a big fan of his. So when with that being said, you know, it would always be like, God damn it, why does he have to be so good at wrestling? But, you know, because I can't deny his skills. Like, it doesn't matter how I feel about the person or whether I agree with what they say or not. But, you know, if they got the skills, I can't deny that. So, you know, I have to give in to the fact that he's got skills to be able to finish, you know, or not finish, but be able to fight and win. But it's frustrating. So, but I would love to see that. But speaking of MVP, we'll get to his fight now that we're on that topic, which is Prime Colby is one of the best welterweights on the planet. No. He was one of the best welterweights at the time. But not on the planet. I don't think so. If that was true, it was for a very short period of time. He was I would say he was edging on the greatness level, but I mean, he's got great skills and he could hold his own, but you know, it went away very fast. And on top of that, he just couldn't ever put it together to get that title. And not that that's what you need. I get that he was, you know, interim champion at one point, but yeah, like I said, Antoine, I mean, maybe for a short period of time, maybe for that one event, but I don't think it lasted for very long whatsoever. Yeah, I mean, that's just my thoughts. I think he was great for a very short period of time, but I don't even know if I would call him great. But that's just me. It's just my opinion. You can have your opinion, and that's fine. But I can't really say that I agree with it. Oh man. So what are we doing? Yeah, so getting back to the fights, MVP versus Sam Peterson. You know, it wasn't, I would say it wasn't the most exciting fight in the world, because I kind of forgot that, you know, they were training partners. So it was kind of weird like that. And then, you know, this is another fight that didn't make sense. Like we were talking about, what are you talking? What was I about to say? We were talking about Brendan Allen getting an unranked fighter. Like, why did this fight make sense for the UFC to put together? It doesn't really make sense. So I just don't know, like, what Michael Venom Page gets out of this fight. And on top of that, you know, was that his reason for fighting the way he was, or was it just that he didn't want to sacrifice anything, or was it that these two kind of knew how each other fight well enough to maybe cancel each other out, kind of, you know what I mean? So like, those are the things that happen when sparring partners or training partners fight each other. And that's why a lot of times they don't want to fight each other. But there weren't any better wrestlers outside of Usman. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't even catch that when I was getting spammed. But yeah, so I feel like that's kind of what you get out of these types of fights. And I feel like Michael Page didn't really put his foot on the pedal and hit that gas, you know what I mean? Like, it just seemed like he was on kind of cruise control, kind of going through the motions to a certain extent. It just wasn't the best fight in the world at all. It seemed like there was not a lot of punches being thrown whatsoever, and it was like NPCs fighting each other. I don't know what else to say about it. Under 40 significant strikes landed combined across all 3 rounds. That's really all you need to know about this fight. Like, MVP just kind of picked his shots. Like, you can kind of tell just by these pictures. These were like the best pictures I could find of anything leaning into MVP winning. They were getting booed. The ref stepped in at one point in time, trying to tell them to, you know, get it going. It was basically just a snooze fest at this point, which we hate those kind of fights, obviously. Page gets the win by unanimous decision, 30-27, 29-28, 29-28. So one judge had him winning all 3 rounds, while the other 2 had him winning only 2 out of the 3. But either way, there was just nothing else to talk about except for how lackluster it was, being an MVP fight. And, you know, I feel like this was the time where he could be like, fine, you want to give me somebody that's unranked and somebody that maybe isn't at my level. If you're looking at the rankings or the level of popularity and the accolades or whatever, maybe this was a time to show up and show out and really get a big win. But for whatever reason, you know, he was just kind of dampened down a little bit and nothing was going on. Again, it could be because they know each other well enough to cancel each other out with fighting styles, or because they know enough about each other to defend well enough, or they don't want to hurt each other subconsciously or consciously. You know what I mean? That kind of shit happens. It gets in your head. That's why matchups like this kind of suck, unless there's heat. But yeah, that's kind of how this went. So it sucks to see my MVP go down in a fight like this, where, you know, it's just another decision. That's all he's had in the UFC so far. He is 4-1 in the UFC, all decision wins. Even his loss was a decision. So he hasn't finished anybody since he got into the UFC, and now he's got 5 fights in and has won or lost every single one has been a decision, win or lose. So this is why I want to see something happen with him that lights a fire under his ass and gets him going back to the MVP of old. It's like, man, what do you got to lose at this point? If they're going to keep giving you opponents that don't even seem to matter, then why not put it all out there and just see what happens? MVP should fight Michael Morales next. Who? That might that could be a good fight. I honestly think it could. Maybe he will rise to the level of his competition. Because Michael Morales is a fucking beast, but maybe the experience and knowledge of MVP and maybe his maybe something will click in him with that level of competition and be able to overcome somebody like Michael Morales. But that would be a tough fight for him for sure, because if he fights like he has been in these past few fights, like he was doing well against Cannonier. But, you know, I think I said it last week or last show that, you know, he fucking landed some good shots on him, wobbled him on his feet, and then told him to relax and chill out and gather himself and gave him time. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, and then he's like taunting and doing dumb shit. It's like, bro, that's when you could have finished it. And then at the end of one of the rounds, Cannonier winds up on like in full mount on top of him or some shit. And it's like, bro, this is the type of shit you can't do. Like, learn your lesson. Look at what happened to Anderson Silva. It always catches up to you. Anderson Silva was doing the fuck around shit, got knocked out, and his you know, his career in the UFC kind of went downhill after that. He put out a statement on social media. He said he felt bad in some fights or chess matches. Yeah. That's what I mean. It's like, that's kind of code for we knew what the fuck each other was going to do and couldn't do much about it. But I think if someone goes crazy, you're going to have to find a way to defend yourself. And if you can shut down the person that's being a marauder, and you know, that proves how good your defense is and what you can do. And maybe you catch them somewhere inside the chaos. But for the person that's just going nuts, maybe that's when you catch somebody. And I don't mean going nuts in a way where you have to be like, just fucking put your head down and start swinging windmills. But maybe it's the time to step on the gas. You know what I mean? But I get it. If you feel like you hit a wall and you can't do much and nothing's working, it demotivates you. It takes your air out of you. And, you know, it does. You feel like you can't do anything. I can understand that too. So it's just a tough fight, man. It just sucks for MVP because I feel like he has all this potential. We've seen what he can do, but he just hasn't done it in the UFC. So maybe it's the level of competition, or maybe it's the difference between the fighting organizations and how the production is done, how the fights go down, and all of that. Who knows? But he's having trouble, and he needs to do something in order to make his way up to being a complete contender, or challenging for a title. And he's not getting any younger, so he definitely needs to figure that out. He's 38 years old, so it's got to be quick. So let's move on to Luke Riley versus Michael Aswell. And this wound up being a unanimous decision, with Luke Riley getting the win here. Of course, hometown guy again for this one, and Riley gets the big win. Didn't really get tested much either. It was a unanimous decision win over Michael Aswell. Co-main event, good showing for him. How much longer does he have performing at this level for MVP? Man, if he keeps, he's winning. He's winning, so we can't talk too negatively about it, because he is winning. But the problem is how he's winning, and the fact that the UFC wants action right now. So he's on a 3-fight win streak, all wins by unanimous decision. He stops Char Bullet, who seemed somewhat unstoppable at the time. He stops Jared Cannonier, who is kind of back and forth with wins and losses, but he's a tough opponent. And now Sam Patterson just seems like it went a little bit down from the two previous opponents, and still no finish. But being 38 years old, he's still winning, and he's not doing anything that's really compromising his physical or mental. So it seems like he's still got some time. He's one of those guys I could see continuing until like 42, 44, if he keeps doing what he's doing and not like really taking a lot of damage. But if things start to go south for him and he starts getting finished and losing a bunch of fights, obviously for the UFC, that's going to be a no-go, and they're going to get rid of him fairly quick because of his age and because of the the level of fights not being at the level that they want. So I would say about as low as 2 years, as high as maybe 6 left for him, if he continues winning in the UFC. 44. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. He seems like one of those types of dudes, you know what I mean? He might fight till 50. No, I don't think so, but he definitely seems like one of those types of guys that no matter how old he is, he still seems like he's in good shape. It's just his fighting hasn't been up to the par from where it was in Bellator, but it's not like he's losing or getting beat down. So I still give him some time. Yeah, but Luke Riley versus Michael Aswell, like I said, Riley gets the win. He showed a pretty big gap in skill between him and Aswell. Cleaner combinations. He picked his shots really well. As you can see, he's landing nicely. He's in great shape if he gets cut from the UFC. Would he go to PFL after? Or I think he would sign with MVP for sure if that was still going on. But we got to see what happens after that one. I don't know if this is going to be a thing that's going to continue on. Right now, it's like a one-off. But I think it would be a better fit for him to go to something like MVP. But if he wants to stick with traditional organizations and possibly, but basically it's like going back to Bellator with PFL. So I don't know that he really wants to do that. So I think if the MVP or Netflix MMA shit keeps going, that might be a better option for him. But you got to think about it. If they're not putting on regular events, then he's not going to be very active. So we'll see how that goes over for him. But Riley continues to be undefeated, 13-0, now 2-0 in the UFC. He wasn't really happy with this performance, it seemed like, but he says he needs help on his, or he needs to sharpen up the defense. But he wins clearly with this one against Aswell, and basically was just honest about it after the fight. What didn't seem too happy, but he got the win nonetheless. So that was your co-main event, and that leads us into the main event. kind of controversial. A lot of people thought that Lerone Murphy could have got the win here. And you know, watching it back, and I'm just thinking like, yeah, it seemed like Lerone was being active. It seemed like he was trying hard to get some really solid, you know, damaging shots in there. But he wasn't as accurate, or I would say maybe not as accurate as Evloev, but Evloev's punches didn't do a lot. You know what I mean? It didn't seem like they did a lot whenever he was landing, unless he had a lot of force behind it. His just regular punches down the middle and stuff didn't seem too damaging. But of course, you put a lot of those together, and then you're gonna start feeling it, and it's gonna start affecting your opponent. So yeah, I mean, both fighters being undefeated, this was really a chess match. You know what I mean? It was a bit more it was a bit more than what MVP and Patterson were. This was really a chess match because, you know, you kind of had both of them active throughout the fight, and both of them were threatening throughout the fight, but Evloev was just controlling a little bit more, I think, especially with the ground game. I had Murphy winning 49-45. Yeah, and you know, looking at it from the perspective of what they judged it on, I mean, I guess I could, that's why I'm saying that, is because I feel like that's what they were seeing. Some control from him throughout with he was landing a lot of punches, but you know, like I said, it wasn't super damaging, it seemed like. I think Lerone, like, man, I feel like he went for the spinning back elbow a couple times. He went for a spinning back elbow a couple times, and you know, it looked like he was trying, he got to a point where he was like, okay, this worked last time, let's see if I can land it again. But Evloev wasn't ever there to you know, to get hit by it. He was aware. He did land one of his own, somewhat of a grazing one. That's kind of what that top picture is there. He did go for some spinning attacks of his own as well. I almost had to say, what if I beat him the way he beat his last opponent that got so much, you know, kind of attention on it. But he thought Lerone, I know Lerone Murphy won the first round. From when I was watching, I was like, oh, Murphy definitely won that first round. But then the rest were either Evloev or it was a toss-up. Obviously the point taken because of the, like, what the fuck was up with the damn low with the low kicks, man? He was deducted a low point for low blow in the fourth round, which that was the third or fourth time that he landed a below the belt fucking kick. It was like, damn, what are we doing? So yeah, it was kind of crazy. Yeah, it's just that's really all there was to it. The low kicks were a lot. And that's why they actually took a point. I feel like they should have taken a point quickly, and that might have stopped that from continuing to happen. I mean, obviously they can be unintentional because of the inside leg kicks and stuff, but damn, maybe stop throwing those as much if you keep hitting the fucking junk, you know what I'm saying? But I got a gnat in here. But yeah, so Evloev is able to hand Murphy his first career loss, and yeah, Murphy, like Antoine said, had that hip problem, so that must have definitely been weighing on him big. And even with that, though, a lot of people still thought he won the fight, and I can understand from both sides, really, the way it looked. And without watching it about 3 or 4 more times and really trying to break it down even further, I can see this one as being a toss-up as to who might have won. And I'm kind of surprised Murphy didn't pull it out, especially with the point deduction, or at least a draw. You know what I mean? I could see it having been a draw even. So yeah, it's a tough one because really these guys were going for the next title shot. So could Jean Silva, you know, sneak his way in there for and get that title shot? I don't know, but he was adamant that he's not gonna fall off, and I think they like him. Oh, now that the fight is out of the way, Lerone just needs 1 or 2 more. Yeah, I mean, but the problem is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter yeah, it doesn't matter what they think of him. We kind of see the disrespect there a little bit, I guess, being that he was 9-0 and the way he got that last win and still didn't get, and even with Volkanovski saying, see you in Australia or whatever he said to him. You know what I mean? Like they still didn't give him that fight. So, and they picked Diego Lopez over him, even though Evloev probably should have got that one too. Yeah, you still had to go out there and fight again, and then winds up getting a loss, and getting injured. So, you saw what Dana said about Silva at the presser. What exactly did he say? Because I think I know what you're talking about, but I'm drawing a blank. Dana had the biggest grin on his face about Silva when asked about the title shot. Well, I know that he said okay, so I think I know what you're talking about. I was shocked Mozart didn't wrestle in the first and second round. Yeah, I was kind of shocked by that too. I was expecting to see a lot more wrestling coming out of him, especially in the earlier rounds to kind of wear out Murphy. But maybe he fell in love with his striking, or just because he was landing, he decided to just keep it going. But I don't know that fared so well. I think he might have ran away with it instead of making it such a close fight if he had done a lot of wrestling in the beginning and was able to, you know, kind of wear out Lerone early on in that fight. Mozart knew he had to strike a little so he could ask for the title shot. Yeah, but I don't know that helped him. I don't know if that helped him, because to me, watching him, the way that he was hitting Murphy, there's other guys that are going to take that even better than Murphy did. And I feel like his striking was better than I thought it was, but I feel like it's not super effective. I think if he puts it together a little more than he did, then it's going to be better for him. But his striking is nothing more than to get him closer to getting that takedown and punishing him on the ground. I feel like that's what it's more effective with, but that's just my opinion. I don't know. It was weird watching him land those punches. It almost seemed like he didn't completely follow through with them, or like they just didn't hit hard enough to make it seem like he was following through, I guess. That was his way of showing the UFC, okay, fine, I'll strike. Well, yeah, but I mean, like, what I'm saying is, what good does that do you if the striking doesn't look good? So, I mean, I don't know. But again, that could just be me seeing it. I fully understand what you're saying, but I still think that if you don't get the finish, that's really what's going to make the statement. Otherwise, for the UFC, they're probably just going to look at it as, oh, just another fucking decision, like we've gotten out of you 9 other times. Oh, sure, you showed a little more here or there. They might not even say that. They'll just say another fucking decision like we've gotten out of you 9 other times. So I think the striking leading to a finish would have made that make a lot more sense, or, you know, the striking looking extremely good and making it a way better fight might have led to a little something more. But I just don't think that what he did was enough for the UFC to just be 100% behind him for the next title shot. So, but I could be wrong. And that's fine. That's just my opinion. And yeah. And speaking of bad times, fucking the Fight Wheel predictions did horribly. Patterson to beat MVP was wrong. Delidze to beat fuck, where are we at with that? Who was Delidze fighting? God damn it. Why am I forgetting? CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan. Delidze to win. That was wrong. Campbell to beat Silva. That was wrong. Iwo Baranowski to beat Austin Lane. The only one that was correct. Michael Aswell to beat Luke Riley. Holy shit. Was that wrong? And then Lerone Murphy to beat Mozart. Of course, that could have been correct. A lot of people thought that was correct, but it didn't turn out that way. Evloev gets the win. So the Fight Wheel predicts 1 right out of 6 fights, which is a goddamn shame. You think Silva gets the next title shot? Like, does he have a real case for it? I would say because of his the entertaining aspect, the fact that he really fights and he has entertainment in his fight style. There's really nothing boring about Jean Silva. His character and all of that makes it more more of an interesting matchup. But I feel like his having lost recently to Diego Lopez of all people that have yet to been able to beat Volkanovski twice, and yet we're able to beat Jean Silva. If they take that into consideration and the fact that Jean Silva just lost that fight not that long ago, I feel like that's a reason to not give him that fight. I feel like now's the better time than ever for the UFC just to give the fight to Evloev, hope he doesn't win, and then move on so that they have that out of the way. No one can keep talking about that. Not that I think they really give a shit, because I highly doubt they do, but I think that if they were to do that and get it out of the way, we could just stop talking about Evloev. You know what I mean? If he loses quickly or easily, or just doesn't look like he belongs in there with Volkanovski, which I'm not sure that he would look that way, but I do think there's a possibility that maybe it doesn't go his way, and then the UFC can be rid of even the talks of him getting a title anymore, because he got the title shot and doesn't do well and doesn't win. But if he wins, then the UFC has to deal with that fight style being the champion in that division, and that's a whole other thing. But unless you're Volkanovski or anybody like that, the titles seem to change hands quickly unless you have a real big name or a guy that impresses in every outing and every showing. That's the way all these fights go, unless you have somebody like that. So if you look at Jean Silva's, I don't think he'd be a dominant champ. I think we've seen the holes, and I think there's plenty of guys that are out there that have enough skill to get past Jean Silva, or at least catch him. So I think if anything, he might be able to lose the belt and come back and win it again. But yeah, I think he has the chance to win a belt at some point. I just don't know that it's right now. And I just don't think he'd be a long-standing champion. But if you look at, if you want to talk fairness, Jean Silva, in his fights leading up to his loss, he got finishes in every single fight. And almost all of them were in the first or second rounds. Leading up to his first loss, he had 3 wins in a row that all had bonuses and all were finishes, including 1 sub, a couple TKOs. Then in his loss, he got another bonus fight of the night, and then that was a TKO loss to Diego Lopez. And then he comes back off of the loss and wins a unanimous decision over Arnold Allen, which, by the way, is impressive because Arnold Allen is a tough opponent. But he didn't get the finish. Had he gotten an emphatic finish over somebody like Arnold Allen, I don't think there'd be a question right now that they would give that fight to Jean Silva over Evloev after this showing from Evloev. I think Silva fight, he was looking great in the second round, but he ran into that elbow. Yeah, I mean, no, he was definitely doing well against Lopez, but he lost. That's just the overall perspective, is that he lost. So that's the only reason why I'm talking about it that way, because he did just lose recently. And, we know that the UFC doesn't look deeply into this shit. And, so that's why some of this is completely invalid and doesn't matter. Much like a lot of the other things we think about and talk about, because the UFC don't listen to us. Because if they did, things would be going differently. So anyway, to wrap it up, Jean Silva has a decent chance at possibly getting the title over Evloev, or getting the title shot over Evloev, but I don't know. I think the UFC might just give it to Evloev at this point, and but maybe they see this as being too close with Murphy, and maybe they do make him wait longer. Who knows? What do you think is going to happen with Yair? He's 33. Man, I don't even have the time to do all that right now. I was actually looking at the time thinking it was about to be 8:30, and it's 8:40 instead. And here I was thinking we were good. I think Aljamain can fight for the belt in the weight class he's in now at some point in time. Yeah. But Yair, I don't know, man. He's too wishy-washy back and forth. He seems to crumble when it comes to the fights that actually matter. So what's going to happen with him is he'll continue to get fights hoping for a title shot at some point, but I don't think he'll ever get back there. So that's the short of it for me. But besides that, that's it for me. Yeah, 3 hours behind. Am I 3 hours behind? Damn. From you? Yeah, probably. Thank you, 78 Northwest. Appreciate you for jumping in and being in here. Appreciate you as well, Antoine, of course, for always giving the thoughtful questions and stuff like that. All is good. Appreciate you too. Thank you. Everyone else that jumped in the chat, Johnny, thanks for all the interaction as well. Oh, okay, 11:40 there. It's 8:40 here, so yeah, we got 3 hours. But yeah, that's it for me. I will be going out of town for work this week, but I should be back before Thursday. So make sure you come back on Thursday to watch the preview and join in on the preview for UFC Fight Night Adesanya versus Pfeiffer. That should be a good one. And we'll have some stuff to talk about on that one because there's some pretty decent fights going on in that card. So come back on Thursday for that preview. That's it for me. I'm out of here. Take it easy. Peace.